So step one, when you get your files from the editor, the sound design files, you'll get a zip file downloaded from the Google Drive, double click on it to unzip it, and then move it in here. And you're going to want to rename it sound design. Step two, take the latest file they have. Hopefully they're using round 1, round 2. You can just Command C to copy, Command V to paste, and then rename that round 2 sound design round 1 like I did here. So here is my sound design file. I'm double clicking on it. And it opens in Premiere Pro. So you can see here when I started dropping the footage, you can see this right here in my bins. In my footage folder, it created a sequence. You can tell it's a sequence because of this little icon. So if you haven't already set up a sequence folder, you need to do that. So I'm going to take this sequence, drag it out into my footage folder because I'm trying to get it out of my footage folder. And then I'm going to drag it out here. Next, create a new bin. I'm going to call it 0_sequence, all caps. And then I'm going to name this sequence the name of my film, which is 0-sound. That way I know that this is my sound design sequence. RND1 for round 1. And then take your sequence and drag it into the sequence folder. You're going to see here that it renamed it as well. So now I have my sequence here, round 1. Let's say that this is my film. And so I just created a new sequence, called it sound. I'm going to duplicate it because sometimes we make changes and then we are like, oh, we don't like it. So we always create a duplicated sequence. That way we have a backup of the original. So I'm going to right click on it, duplicate, and I'm going to call my duplicated one round 2. I'm going to hit return, and then I'm going to double click on the little icon, and you can see round 2 opened here. So step 1 for sound design, once you finished editing your short film, you added your title cards, you have your end credits, you need to start doing sound design. And step 1 is to fix the existing audio that the camera captured. You guys were using a shotgun mic, and every mic you use, there's going to be some sort of hissing sound. It's just part of the way the microphones are built. There's no way to avoid it, but it's really easy to remove that. So I'm going to come over here. So first step, you probably have your section linked, which means if you select your audio or your video, if you select your video, the audio will automatically link. So I'm going to unsync it just for sound design purposes. That way I can just edit the sound. I'm going to go to Window, Workspaces, Audio. And once I have my sound selected, you're going to have all these options. I'm going to click Dialogue. And this is what you would click whether or not your film has dialogue. But this is what you're going to use to clean up that hissing sound, because you can listen.
Okay, when I say 1, 2, 3, wait, start. What do we do? It's
so there's like hissing in there that we need to avoid or get rid of. And also watch the audio levels.
Okay.
It's hitting around between -9 and 12. And we want it to hit between -3 and -6. Because this is going to be our existing audio. You have like footsteps in here, sometimes dialogue, other sound effects that you want louder. So I'm going to come in here, and first step, let's remove the hissing. So I'm going to come over here where it says repair and just select reduce noise. And you can see it set it on 5. Let's listen to it now.
Okay, when I say 1, 2.
It's a lot cleaner. I can hear a little bit of hissing, so I can push it up maybe like 5.6.
Okay, when I say 1, 2, 3.
So it's a lot cleaner. If you still hear hissing, you can bring it up even more. Totally up to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Say 1, 2.
Now it's completely clean. But now let's look at the audio levels.
Okay, when I say
So they are not loud enough. So next step, we need to raise our audio levels. So let's say you went through your whole entire short film, you cleaned it up, you reduced the noise, you raised it up to get rid of all of the hissing. Let's come in here. Reduce noise, let's get rid of all of the hissing. All right. And now I need to raise my audio level. So what I'm going to do in this gray area right beside the microphone, do not click on the microphone because that will start recording audio. Gray area beside it, double click, and the audio track expands. This line right here is your master audio level. You can click on it and drag it up, and you can see the number at the bottom here grows. If you drag it down, it gets into the negative. So I'm going to raise it up. Let's listen.
yeah.
Still not loud enough. I can go higher.
Okay, when I say 1.
And now you can see it was hitting the red. That means it's peaking. That means the audio is too loud, that it's getting damaged. So you actually want to bring that down until it hits between -3 and -6.
2, 3.
So a little bit louder.
Wait, what do we do?
Tiny bit too loud, but let's
It's okay. When I
still too loud. So sometimes you can play around with the levels. You can zoom in and out so you can see the track. But I'm going to come in here and just bring my clip volume down a little bit right over here. Let's listen now.
say 1, 2, 3. Wait, what do we do? It's same thing.
So that's hitting around -3, a little bit higher. As long as it's not hitting into the red, you're fine. But this is going to be your loudest audio in your entire film. And then once you start adding sound effects, you start adding ambience, you start adding atmosphere, those are going to be softer or louder depending on what kind of effect you want. But step 1 is to get that clear audio and clean up the existing audio that your camera recorded. So next I would do it in here as well. Let's listen. Nope, we need to go higher. Too loud.
Slurs at the end.
Ooh, still too loud. I'm going to bring it down a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good. Right. Next track.
Action. Oh, it's backlit.
Anyway, let's pretend that's fixed. Amazing. All of our audio is now cleaned up. It's all hitting between -3 and -6. Perfect. That was step 1. If you want to create keyframes in your audio track, all you do is hold down Command, and you can see a little plus up here. Just click, and there you go. That's a keyframe. Let's add another one and another one. And then that middle one, you can move up or down, depending if you want certain levels quieter or louder.
Yeah. I say 1, 2, 3. Wait, what do we do? It's same thing.
So that is how you create keyframes. And note, if you only create one keyframe and you start messing with it, it's just going to move your entire audio level up and down. So make sure you create more than one keyframe to actually change the sound so you can see what it does.
Yeah. Okay, when I say 1, 2, 3.
So that's keyframes. Step 2, you want to add your audio transition. You can come at the very beginning of the clip. Right click. Apply default transition, and then make this transition shorter. And then in the middle of these two clips, same. Right click, apply default transition, because you don't want it to clip. You're going to hear a clicking noise if you don't do that after you export. And it's really distracting sometimes.
It blurs at the end.
Yeah.
So anyway, you want to come in here, apply default transition. Every single audio clip, no matter how long or how short, needs a fade in and a fade out to avoid that clipping sound. You're going to do this to every single clip, not just the footage that you shot in the camera, but you do it to all the sound effects like footsteps, birds chirping, whatever. Any ambient sounds like waterfalls, room tone, train station, foot traffic, whatever, dogs barking, any atmosphere, which is like gravelly sounds, whatever messes with the mood. You're adding audio transitions to all of that. Okay, so once that is done, you finished cleaning up your existing audio, all of it, you added your audio transition, come in here and just lock it. That way you don't accidentally mess it up. Lock it. There you go. You can also lock your video. That way you're not accidentally moving it around, messing it up. After this, your next step, you want to bring in your sound effects. Just layer it on the next track. You can use more than one. And then bring in your ambient sounds like room tone, if it's an outdoor film, things like birds chirping, maybe there's rain outside, who knows, totally up to you, whatever you want to bring in, then atmosphere sounds as well. Let's go back to cadence and talk about sound a little bit. So I'm adding all of this information to the assignment. So your sound effects are whatever's relevant. It could be footsteps, it could be a door slamming, it could be keys jingling in the lock, whatever. Ambient sounds is the immediate sound of the space. Room tone, air conditioning, distant television, street noises outside the window. Anything that basically gives us building the sound of the space. Distant traffic, crickets, whatever. Atmosphere sound, on the other hand, is sounds that are established, that establish a mood or tone. For example, unsettling drones, dreamy synth waves, echoing cavern sounds, a deep bass rumble. Some of these sounds are actual sound that you can feel. If you go to the movie theater, you can actually feel some of these sounds because it's just makes your body, it like affects your body. That's how like deep these sounds are. And depending on what your film is, or depending on what mood you want to evoke in different scenes, you may add some. If you want something like peaceful, serene, like dreamy synthwaves could be beautiful. Or some like flute or something melodic, or even like sounds of like gongs or something, like to make it light and dreamy. So this can be dark, like unsettling ones, or deep bass, but also could be light and like magical. So that is what atmosphere sound is. So this is the sound you add to create a mood. And you can get creative with this. And then music, again, you want to use music sparingly. Do it at the start and end of your film, where your title card goes and also where your end credits start rolling. Again, you don't want to put music under your entire film because it's just not professional. And also you want to keep people in the moment and use your sound effects and atmosphere sound and ambient sound to build the sound in your film, not just music. To set up your folders, don't forget audio. And in here, you want to separate them because otherwise sometimes it's hard to find these things. Like here's water. Right. Nature. Here's some underwater sounds. So these could be considered atmosphere as well. You can get creative. What do I have here? Like here's an example of an atmosphere sound. Once you are done fixing the original camera captured audio, go ahead and duplicate the sequence. So you can come over here to your project. Let's open a sequence folder. Right click, duplicate, and let's do around 3. It never hurts to have more sequences than you need, because every time you duplicate it, you have a backup version in case you do something that you really don't like. You have a backup, you could always visit it. And then, so you duplicate your sequence, and then you come in here and you start adding your ambient sounds. You can duplicate it and create a new one. You can even add extensions here, ambience. So let's say I'm going to add my ambience to this one, and you can see it added it here. So this track, I would come in here, add my ambience, duplicate it again, rename it round 4 dash sound effects, and then I would put my sound effects in, and then duplicate it again. You can even lock them when you're done. And keep adding. And again, if you need to add more audio tracks because you have more that you can do, just select one of the audio tracks, bring it all the way down, and then you can see it adds a track. If you bring it all the way down, drag it all the way to the bottom, it just adds a track. Last thing I want to show you, if you accidentally move your audio or video and it's out of sync, you can see this says negative, or this says negative 21, this is positive 21. Just move it back to where it needs to be. And if you can't figure it out, like, you can just nudge it by clicking option and then the little arrows beside the M and the question mark. So option, and let's just click it over, and you can see it's moving into place where it should be. Once it disappears, that means your audio and video are in sync again.